Hello and welcome to Awaz News. I'm Kubrali and I'll be taking you through big news across Canada.
3 men arrested after Toronto senior defrauded of more than $1 million in Renault scheme. High-ranking Toronto cop interrupted investigation into car crash involving nephew documents. $1.4 million in vehicles recovered, over 100 charges laid after GTA carjacking network dismantled. Doug Ford criticized for not wearing masks one day after Ontario's new recommendation. Toronto gets hit by first snowfall of the season, another 5 to 10 centimeters possible overnight.
Those were the headlines, and let's jump right into the details.
Toronto got its first blast of winter weather on Tuesday, and Environment Canada is warning that there would be another 5 to 10 centimeters of snowfall overnight. Environment Canada issued a winter weather travel advisory for Toronto and most of the GTA on Tuesday as snow blanketed the city. The city's first snowfall of the season comes courtesy of low-pressure system which made its way over Lake Erie overnight. The snow came to stop in downtown Toronto at around 2 p.m. but it's expected to pick up again later tonight, which could make over a messy morning commute. In previous years, the city only began plowing on local roads after 5 to 8 centimeters of accumulation, but Fraza said that there are new contracts this year which will see plows dispatched as soon as possible after the snow starts sticking to the ground. He said that the city will also be communicating more frequently with residents during major snow events, following criticism around its response to a massive winter storm and dumped 55 centimeters of snow on Toronto last January. You're going to see a lot more enhanced communication so residents understand exactly what is going on and where it is happening so that they can prepare accordingly, he said. OPP Sergeant Carrie Smith told CP24 that there were several collisions amid the snowfall, including a single vehicle rollover on eastbound Highway 407 just past Highway 410, in which road conditions could have been a factor. Smith said the driver in that collision had been extricated from the vehicle after slamming into a median and incredibly only sustained minor injuries. In certain could have been far more serious, and of note the vehicle did have all seasons tires. Not sure if winter tires would have made the difference, he said. A high of 4 is expected in Toronto Tuesday with periods of light snow continuing on to Wednesday. A high-ranking Toronto police officer is facing misconduct charges after she allegedly interfered in the police investigation into collision involving her nephew. The Non-Criminal Police Service Act charges against 11 Division Unit Commander Joyce Scherzer date back to an incident that occurred on May 1st. Hearing documents obtained by CP24 alleged that Scherzer was working at 11 Division when she received a call from a daughter who told her that her nephew had been in a bad accident. The documents allege that Scherzer arranged for an officer from her division to be dispatched to Portland Division where the crash occurred, circumventing the usual priority system to the benefit of your family. Scherzer then attended the scene herself and became actively involved in the investigation, the documents allege. While on scene, you were the first to speak to your nephew. You gathered information about the collision and became actively involved in the investigation. You then had a private conversation with the investigating officer, and your nephew was advised he could leave the scene, the documents state. The hearing documents point out that it was necessary for members of the Specialized Toronto Police Traffic Services Unit to attend the scene due to the fact that the vehicle had damaged city property. However, the documents allege that the officer tasked with leading the investigation did not have the opportunity to determine whether alcohol might be a contributing factor due to the fact that the driver had been permitted to leave the scene. The investigation was interrupted as a result of your nephew being removed from the scene, the documents stated. As the senior officer and supervisor on the scene, you failed to ensure that a thorough investigation was conducted into the collision. In addition, you failed to make notes of the statement provided by the driver, your nephew. Scherzer is a former homicide detective who is second in command at 11 Division. She is charged with discreditable conduct, insubordination, and neglect of duty in connection with the May incident. Her first appearance before the police tribunal was scheduled for Tuesday morning. None of the charges have been proven before the tribunal. A joint police task force has arrested 16 people, laid 116 charges, and recovered over $1 million worth of stolen vehicles after busting a carjacking network in a Greater Toronto area. Operation GTA was initiated in June of this year as a joint forces operation focused on identifying and targeting the criminal networks responsible for funding and fueling the increase in violent carjackings across the Greater Toronto area. The task force was led by the York Regional Police, and partner agencies included the Toronto Police Service, the Durham Regional Police Service, the Halton Regional Police Service, Peel Regional Police, and the Ontario Provincial Police. Police said in a press release that instances of carjackings had been on the rise during the after COVID-19 pandemic, and that many of the incidents involved armed suspects posing serious risks to public safety. Police say multiple search warrants were executed on 11th October and 12th of this year, resulting in the arrests. Investigators say they recovered 19 stolen vehicles worth approximately $1.4 million, identified an additional 50 rewind vehicles worth over $5 million. York Regional Police released a video showing one suspect's arrest along with a number of the allegedly stolen vehicles. Ontario Premier Doug Ford was criticized Tuesday for not wearing a mask in legislature one day after the province's top doctors strongly recommended they be worn indoors. Fewer than a dozen progressive conservative MPPs were seen wearing masks at question period on Tuesday. Video from the legislature shows some cabinet ministers, including the Premier and Education Minister Stephen Lecce, sitting without a mask while young pages stood directly in front of them. NDP interim leader Peter Tabuns called the Premier out of his lack of leadership during a time in which hospitals are overburdened. The Premier did not respond to Tabuns' questioning, choosing instead to throw the questions to House Leader Paul Kandra and Health Minister Sylvia Jones. Kandra also was not wearing a mask. Jones, who was diagnosed with COVID-19 a few weeks ago, was wearing one. On Monday, Dr. Kiran Moore said he was strongly recommending masking in all indoor public settings to help curb the spread of COVID-19, influenza, and respiratory syncytial virus. No mask mandate has been implemented in the Ontario at this time. Ford has previously urged Ontarians to wear a mask every time possible. And yet, on Tuesday, the Premier appeared not being following that same advice. When asked about his decision not to wear a mask, Calandra responded saying the government has taken full leadership from the beginning of the pandemic. Jones also objected to the NDP questions about wearing masks. Tabuns, meanwhile, argued that leadership does not mean repeating talking points in the House. The Premier did not speak on the matter. Speaking to reporters after question period, Jones said the individuals will have to make their own choices and that we should not be passing judgment. Jones added that in terms of her fellow PC MPPs, members of the public should take into consideration the size of the building and the size of the room. There are 124 members of provincial parliament that sit in the legislature during question period, not including staff pages, members of the press, and those in the public gallery.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kubra Ali. I'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a good night.